Welcome to KOT Aero, knowledge on tap for the aerospace industry. Subscribe for free at kotaero.com. All right, let's dive into it.
All right, so get this right. Imagine a company selling like $17 billion worth of fighter jets, helicopters, and spaceships in just 3 months.
Wow.
That's Lockheed Martin, and we are going to be diving into all of that today, their latest financial report.
We're
We're going to go beyond the headlines, beyond what everybody else is talking about, to see what these numbers really tell us about what's going on.
Yeah, the scale is truly mind-boggling.
Right.
I mean, to put it into perspective, that's more than the entire GDP of some countries
I know,
in
crazy.
just one quarter.
So we've got 2 key documents for you today.
Okay.
Their official Q3 earnings report filed with the SEC. That's the serious one, very detailed.
Right.
And then a press release
Yeah.
aimed at investors and the media. A little more snappy, a little more fun.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack both of those today to find the stories that are hidden in the numbers.
It's like having a treasure map, but instead of X marks the spot,
Yeah,
it's follow the cash flow.
exactly.
That's what we're looking for.
So whether you're into investing, aerospace, or just curious how these giant corporations work, this deep dive is for you.
Yeah.
So let's start with the big picture. Lockheed is shouting about year-over-year sales growth, but
There's always a but, right?
yeah, there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Right, because that overall growth masks some interesting trends
Oh, okay.
within Lockheed's 4 main business areas.
Okay.
Aeronautics, missiles and fire control, Rotary and Mission Systems, and space.
Right.
Each one kind of tells a different story.
So, for example, aeronautics took a little bit of a hit this quarter. But on the other hand, their missiles and fire control segment is, like, absolutely booming.
Right.
It's almost ironic.
I mean, it's not ironic at all when you think about it.
I know.
Global military priorities are shifting, and that's reflected in the demand
Oh, okay.
for those specific weapon systems.
Got it.
We'll dive deeper into that later and, connect it to what's happening in the world right now.
Yeah. So sales are up, but what about profits?
Right.
They're doing pretty well there, too, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
But this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Lockheed's report emphasizes something called profit booking adjustments.
Profit booking adjustments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, how they account for future profits they expect to make.
So are they cooking the books?
Not necessarily cooking the books,
Okay.
but these adjustments definitely impact how profitable
Right.
a company appears on paper.
Got it.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
You're a baker, and you've got a big order for a wedding cake next month.
Okay.
Do you count all that profit now,
Right.
or only when you deliver the cake?
Right. Right.
That's kind of the decision that Lockheed's making, but on a much larger scale.
That makes sense. It's like they're baking a whole fleet of F-35s.
Exactly.
And speaking of which, Lockheed's currently in a bit of a standoff with the U.S. government over that very program, right?
Yes, the ongoing saga of the F-35.
Yes.
They are delivering planes, but they are stuck in this very tricky negotiation. For the next batch, what they call lots 18 and 19.
Right.
Essentially, they're building these incredibly expensive jets on trust.
Wait, they're building planes on trust?
Yeah, on trust, hoping that the government will finalize that contract soon.
Okay, so what happens if the deal falls through? That sounds risky.
It is risky, and this gets to the heart of how government contracting works, right?
Okay.
Because here's the thing.
Okay.
They can't officially count the revenue from those planes until the contract is signed.
Got it.
So we're talking millions of dollars just hanging in the balance.
Right.
And if things really go south, it could mean billions in potential losses.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
It is. It is.
That's like building a house without knowing if the buyer's going to pay in the end.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's shift gears and talk about cash flow.
Okay.
Lockheed generated a ton of cash from operations this quarter, but they also spent a lot, particularly on share buybacks and dividends. Can you explain what those are for someone who might not know?
Yeah, sure.
Like, what does that mean?
So let's start with share buybacks. Imagine Lockheed has a giant piggy bank full of cash.
Okay.
They can use some of that cash to buy back their own stock from the market.
Okay.
This reduces the number of shares available,
Okay.
which can then increase the value of the remaining shares.
So it's a way to boost their stock price and keep their investors happy.
Exactly.
I like it.
Dividends are similar, but instead of buying back stock,
Right.
they give cash directly to shareholders.
Sure.
It's like sharing a slice of the company's profits with those who own a piece of it.
Right, but doesn't that mean they have less money to reinvest in, like research and development, new projects,
Well,
like
no.
the next big thing?
Yeah, that's the trade-off.
Okay.
It's this classic balancing act for any company. Pleasing investors in the short term versus investing for future growth.
Right.
Whether Lockheed's approach is smart, risky, or somewhere in between. It depends on your perspective.
Right.
But it's something to keep in mind
Right.
as we look at their investments in digital transformation and research and development later on.
Great point.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the specifics of their business segments.
Right.
We already mentioned that aeronautics took a bit of a hit because of the F-35 delays.
Right.
But their other aircraft programs seem to be thriving. What's going on there?
That's right. Sales of the C-130 transport plane and the F-16 fighter jet are booming.
Really?
It seems that even in this age of, stealth fighters and drones, there's still a big market for these, reliable workhorse aircraft.
So what's the takeaway for us here?
I think the takeaway is that even in an era of, very high-tech warfare,
Right.
there's this enduring value in reliable, cost-effective platforms.
Right.
It's like, the defense industry's version of the Toyota Corolla.
Okay.
It just works. And many air forces around the world just need that dependability.
That's a great analogy. Okay, on to missiles and fire control, the segment that's, doing exceptionally well.
Right.
What's driving that success?
Well, we hinted at it earlier, but to really understand it, we need to connect it to real-world events, right?
Yep.
They're seeing this surge in demand for specific weapons systems.
Okay.
That's the Guided Multiple Launch Rocket System and the LRASM, the Long-Range Anti-Ship Missile.
So these are long-range precision weapons.
They are.
What does that tell us about how warfare is changing?
I think it reflects a shift in military thinking.
Okay.
There's this increasing focus on deterring large-scale conflicts,
Oh,
especially against powerful adversaries.
okay.
These missiles offer a way to, project force
Right.
and potentially cripple an enemy's capabilities from afar.
So it's about preventing those conflicts from happening in the first place.
Yes, but it also shows how battlefields are changing,
Okay.
The ability to strike targets accurately from a distance is becoming more and more critical. Think of it like a high-stakes game of chess on a global scale.
Definitely sounds like a dangerous game.
It is.
All right, let's move on to Rotary and Mission Systems.
Okay.
It looks like they're having a solid quarter overall, but there's this mention of a reach-forward loss on a radar program.
Yes.
What does that even mean?
Well, this is where we kind of get a peek behind the curtain
Okay.
at how complex these defense projects can be.
Okay.
Imagine you're renovating your kitchen, and halfway through, you realize you're going to blow past your budget.
Right.
That's essentially what a reach-forward loss is.
Okay.
It happens when a company anticipates future costs on a project exceeding the initial contract value.
So they're basically saying we're going to lose money on this down the line.
Yes, but it's more than just admitting defeat. Okay, it's a way of accounting for potential risks and uncertainties that might arise.
Right.
Things like unexpected technical challenges,
Okay.
changes in material costs,
Got it.
or even shifts in, what the customer wants.
All right.
So even though Rotary and Mission Systems is doing okay overall, this reach-forward loss suggests that, there might be some trouble ahead for this particular program.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, last but not least, we have space.
Yes.
This one's always a bit of a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Their sales are slightly down, but profits are up thanks to something they call favorable contract mix.
Right.
Can you explain that in plain English?
So favorable contract mix basically means that they're working on projects with higher profit margins,
Oh, right.
even if the total revenue is a bit lower.
Got it.
It's not just about how much you sell. It's about what you sell and how profitable those projects are.
Makes sense.
So it's like choosing to sell a few, high-end sports cars
Right.
instead of a lot of budget sedans.
Okay.
You might make less overall sales, but your profit margin is much higher.
Got it.
And in a complex field like space,
Right.
where projects can range from satellites to missile defense systems, understanding contract mix is key to understanding a company's financial health.
Okay, I'm starting to get the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Lockheed's doing well overall, but there are definitely some potential challenges on the horizon.
Absolutely.
Especially with that F-35 contract situation.
Yes.
And that leads us perfectly to the question of what the future holds for Lockheed Martin.
Right.
They're investing heavily in digital transformation and research and development, making a big bet that they can stay ahead of the technological curve.
They are.
But is that the right bet? Are they spreading themselves too thin, or are they making smart investments for the future?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll also delve into some of the finer points of their financials.
Okay.
Things like effective tax rate and equity earnings.
Okay.
These might seem like boring details, but they offer valuable insights into how a company like Lockheed operates.
I'm ready to geek out on those details. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. So before we took that pause, we were talking about Lockheed Martin's big investment in digital transformation and R&D.
Right.
You could say they're pouring money into, cutting-edge technologies like AI, autonomous systems, hypersonic tech.
It sounds like they're trying to become the Apple of the defense industry.
That's a great analogy.
Right. They want that dominance.
Yeah, but the question is, can they pull it off in a sector as, complex and regulated as defense?
Right.
It's not like consumer electronics.
So, what are some of the challenges they might face?
Well, one major hurdle is the long development cycles.
Okay.
In defense, it can take, years, even decades, for new technologies to move from the lab to the battlefield.
Right.
It's not like releasing a new phone every year.
Right. So they could be investing in cutting-edge tech today that becomes obsolete before it's even deployed.
It's definitely a risk, and then you have to factor in government procurement processes,
Right.
which are often, very slow-moving and bureaucratic even when it comes to very innovative technologies.
So it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Exactly.
You've got these agile tech companies pushing boundaries.
Right.
And then you've got this slower moving government
Right.
trying to integrate those advancements.
Bridging that gap is going to be crucial for them.
Right.
They need to prove to their primary customer, the U.S. government,
Right.
that these new technologies are worth the investment.
So it's not just about building cool gadgets. It's about convincing the Pentagon
Exactly.
that those gadgets will actually give them an advantage on the battlefield.
Precisely. It takes more than just, technical brilliance.
Right.
They need savvy marketing, strong relationships, and a deep understanding of how the government works.
It's fascinating how technology, politics, and economics all intertwine in this industry.
They do.
Investing in Lockheed Martin or any defense company means understanding the whole geopolitical landscape.
You hit the nail on the head.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a minute and dive into some of that, what did you call it? Financial geekery?
Financial geekery.
From the report, don't worry. I'm sure you'll keep it interesting.
I'll try.
All right, let's start with their effective tax rate.
Okay.
For this quarter, it was 15.4%.
Right.
Which seems really low.
It is.
Compared to what a lot of other companies pay.
That's a sharp observation. It is indeed lower than their tax rate in the same quarter last year.
Okay.
It's likely due to a few things.
Okay.
Including tax credits for R&D.
Right.
Deductions for foreign-derived income.
Okay.
And how their employee stock ownership plan is structured.
So they're using legal tax breaks to reduce their tax burden.
Exactly. It's important to remember that companies have a responsibility to their shareholders to maximize profits, and that includes minimizing taxes.
Right. But it does make you wonder, about the fairness of the system, especially when large corporations pay a lower tax rate than a lot of individuals.
That's a valid point.
Right.
And a broader societal issue, it goes beyond Lockheed.
Right.
It raises questions about how our tax system is structured.
Okay.
And what we consider fair.
So let's move on to equity earnings.
Okay.
Lockheed has a large investment in United Launch Alliance.
They do?
Or ULA. It's a joint venture with Boeing that launches government and commercial payloads into space.
That's right. And their earnings from ULA were actually down this quarter.
Oh, really?
Due to a decrease in the number of launches.
Interesting.
This is something to keep an eye on.
Okay.
Because the space launch market is becoming increasingly competitive.
With companies like SpaceX, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
SpaceX and other new players are putting pressure on traditional launch providers.
Okay.
Like ULA, it will be interesting to see how this competition plays out and how it affects their profits.
Before we wrap this section up,
Okay.
I want to touch on Lockheed Martin's global reach.
Right.
They have partnerships and programs all over the world.
They do.
So what are some of the things they need to consider when operating internationally?
Great question. We've mainly focused on their relationship with the U.S. government.
Right.
But Lockheed is a global company. They have to navigate this complex web
Yeah.
international regulations, export controls, and political considerations.
Especially when dealing with sensitive military technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the geopolitical landscape adds another layer of complexity.
Right.
They have to be aware of, political sensitivities
Right.
and potential conflicts of interest when working with foreign governments.
It sounds like a delicate balancing act.
It is.
Trying to secure profitable international deals
Right.
while staying on the right side of regulations.
Yeah. Expanding globally is crucial for their long-term success,
Okay.
but it comes with its own set of risks.
It's like any business, weighing the potential rewards against the risks.
Exactly. That's why understanding the global landscape,
Right.
including the political, economic, and regulatory factors, is so important for a company like Lockheed.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to how complex and multifaceted
It is.
a company like Lockheed Martin truly is.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground, from their investments in future technologies to their savvy tax strategies, their role in the evolving space launch market, and their global reach.
It's been a fascinating journey so far.
Yeah.
And it really underscores that, understanding a company like this requires going beyond just those surface level numbers.
Yeah.
You really need to delve into the intricacies of their business, their tech,
Right.
and their place in the world.
So in our final segment, let's zoom out and consider the big picture.
Okay.
What does Lockheed Martin's success or potential struggles tell us about the future of the defense industry?
Right.
And how does that shape global events?
That's a question worth pondering, and one we'll tackle head on after a quick break.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have from their finances to their cutting-edge technology to their global reach.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I kind of want to step back
Okay.
and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What does it all mean?
Yeah, what's fascinating to me is how Lockheed Martin
Okay.
acts as this sort of barometer
Okay.
for global security trends.
What do you mean by barometer?
Well, think about the products they sell.
Yeah.
Fighter jets, missiles, space systems.
Right.
These aren't everyday things that people buy.
Right.
The demand for what they make is directly tied
Right.
to geopolitical events, government policies, and
Good.
perceptions of threat
Right.
in the world.
So if their business is booming,
Yeah.
does that mean the world is becoming a more dangerous place?
Well, it's one way to interpret it.
Okay.
It could also mean that countries are simply prioritizing defense modernization,
Right.
trying to deter potential adversaries,
Okay.
or even preparing for these new types of conflicts.
Okay, like what? Like conflicts in space or cyberspace?
Right.
Their investments
Right.
in areas like AI and hypersonic tech kind of suggest that they are anticipating
Yeah.
a future where, those domains
Yes.
become more important battlegrounds.
It's exciting, but also a little unnerving.
That's a really complex issue
Yeah.
that's been debated for a long time.
Mhm.
It's a nuanced conversation
Right.
with no easy answers.
So what do you see as Lockheed Martin's biggest challenges going forward?
I think one of their biggest challenges is going to be navigating this rapidly changing technological landscape.
Okay.
Think about fields like AI, quantum computing, biotech.
Right.
These advancements could completely revolutionize warfare.
But they don't always move at the same speed as Silicon Valley.
That's right. They need to find ways to be innovative
Right.
and adaptable while still working within the constraints of government contracts
Right.
and regulations. It's a tricky balancing act.
And then there's all the geopolitical uncertainty.
Yeah,
The world is an unpredictable place.
it is.
It's almost impossible to predict future conflicts or defense needs.
That's true. They have to be prepared for a wide range of scenarios,
Right.
from regional conflicts to, great power competition
Yeah.
to emerging threats we haven't even thought about yet.
Yeah. I'm both impressed and intimidated by Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
They're operating at the intersection of technology, geopolitics, and human ambition.
They are.
Their decisions have a real impact on the world.
They do. You've summed it up perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Their success, or lack thereof,
Yeah,
will have significant implications for all of us.
absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final question
Okay.
to ponder.
All right.
Imagine you're the CEO of Lockheed Martin.
Okay.
What would your top priority be right now?
Would it be securing those F-35 contracts?
Yeah.
Pushing the boundaries of innovation?
Mhm.
Expanding into new markets?
Yeah.
Something else entirely?
Yeah, there are no easy answers.
Right.
And that's what makes this topic so fascinating.